was a partner in this firm, but he said, I'm here 4 days a week. They let the partners and the older people that they don't need the mentorship quite as much be in 4 days a week, but the younger workers are in 5 days a week. So we're talking about choices. At the end of the day, this all comes down to, does it not, what the company's policy is. And the companies that decide they're going to let people come in whenever they feel like coming in, they're probably the ones, based on the business, they're probably the ones who are going to suffer the most, right?
Sure. Well, first of all, Mika made the point, and you just referred to it as well, about choices. People make choices, and I'm all for people making choices. And if people choose that they don't want to be part of that rat race completely, they want to dial it back a bit, whatever, that's all fine. But you have to accept that there are consequences economically. If the country becomes as a whole less productive, people are going to have less incomes, and those who make those choices have to accept that they may have lower incomes.
Miss Jackson, I have the pastor on.
Okay, Reverend, how are you? Thank you so much for Mr. Brooker. Oh, I mean, and his accompanist was fantastic, but he was with us all day. I know it was all you. That's why I'm thanking you. Okay. I mean, I know it was all you, but it was still very kind. Because, honey, my mother and everybody hopped in his car, and we rode around with him all day.
I try to do Santita honest because I study it to make sense of the whole and do you know that and the message I try. Everything we do is intentional, even the stupid stuff.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, we have to think things through, and I was reading something the other day. The worst, I think Prince said this. We're in a season now where we have to surround ourselves with the right kind of people. Important because the world is designed to get worse morally.
Oh, yeah. You see it.
Yes.
And you feel it.
Yeah. And if you're not careful, you'll get so worn out and you become a part of it, which is your peace, and it's so wicked, it's ungodly. So what you have to do is create your own world in this world. You know, and you have to do it. It's not a joke, especially you and me our age and those up that don't care. They get it exactly like what that right out anyway. But the ones that's coming up, they have no clue what they can really get into. If little people don't teach them that principles is going to matter, it doesn't matter how the bikes fly and cars get ready to fly and things change.
Mm-hmm.
God's on that flying back in 2030.
Absolutely.
You know, and those that get on the flying bike and fall and die will be the ones that's disobedient to God. It's the same thing in 2023. You know, there's been direction in all of our lives, and in all of these circumstances, we shouldn't be talking about it.
Look, you get no pushback from me. Oh, wait a minute. Let me just keep talking to me. I think that what we're going through is just okay. Here we go. Okay, change the blackout. Hold on, honey bun. I gotta grab a couple of things. Right? I'm still out of town.
You gotta take care of yourself to fight.
Oh, honey, I am doing that. Make no mistake. Make no mistake about that. Oh, no. Your girl is doing that. I'm gonna take a nap in the middle of the day. You know, because I know that is what I need to do. Thank you. Huh?
I got this train that is killing me, but I've been feeling the difference.
You know what? I totally hear you because I know I'm going to start doing, I'm going to tone up some more because I didn't realize it's only, well, now I see how much weight I've lost. And there's some things that I still have the power to do. without the benefit of surgery. Because I've lost 20 pounds? Stand by. Thank you. And that becomes its own thing, but
focus is really important. Self first. You gotta have the strength to fight just for yourself. And you ready for it. And I'm gonna tell you something. What to add is 3 sayings that I use every day. What's worse than slavery is adjusting to it.
absolutely.
And that's what
So many of us have. I mean, of all colors. Of all colors.
I looked at the mayoral candidate in the picture they were posting about the pastors who support you Dallas. And I'm like, wow.
There's a lot going on. A lot. A lot.
And you know what's amazing? It's going to blow you away. Santita got to know who she is really in God, outside of your daddy, mama, Darius, your Jackie, Jonathan, your job. You got to know who you are. This is one position with God. And then you got to know your position with other people, because you got to make a choice there. If God is who you really say he is in Darius' life, I might fall out with Jonathan, but God ain't going to stop taking care of me.
Absolutely.
You got to know who she is with God, just in case anything change. Santita got to remind herself, I enjoy this now. I wish this would be. This is not my first. And we got to mean it, because watch this, what God approves, he must prove. And sometimes we got to make sure that our place in God is more important. 1 minute, please. The places and things.
Absolutely.
Even doing what we're doing. Yeah, even doing what we're doing. We got to know this without a shadow of doubt. Santita, that's how I'm doing it. I couldn't do it all the way.
Well, we've been told in all of our ways, acknowledge God, right?
Yep. Right there. Right there. That's for real. Don't play with it. 30 seconds.
Stand by. We're coming up. Love you, Darius.
But even I know this is not good news, is it? I mean, the fact that you have a federal judge saying it's likely a crime was committed.
Okay, let me do this.
Go ahead and make you turn over.
10 seconds. Stand by.
Thank you. Let's have a great show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, coming to you from WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, and on my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, and of course, the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Everybody join me on Facebook on Santita Jackson and Friends. No other page. All other pages kick you off. If I have not accepted your friendship on the Santita Jackson page, it's because they're kicking everybody off. So please spread the word. Come over to Santita Jackson and Friends. That's where I can accept people. So it is a joy to be with you today. March 31st, next Friday, we, WCPT, Patty Vasquez, Joan Esposito, and Santita Jackson will be moderating the mayoral debate. And that will be, of course, between former CEO of the Chicago Public Schools, Paul Vallis, and Cook County Commissioner, former Chicago Public Schools teacher, Brandon Johnson. So if you want to be there, the only way you can be there is to win these tickets that I'm going to be giving away. So I want you to continue to listen. We were able to give away some tickets yesterday, and we want you to be there. It's going to be a fantastic debate, robust. Of course, you can vote in all 50 wards right now, same day, on-site registration. So please vote. It's the voting season. It's not just voting day. The last day to vote is April 4th, but you can vote every day up until and through April 4th. So please, everybody, get out and vote. Tell the high school seniors who are 18 right now or who will be on April 4th, get registered and vote. And you just go to the polling place. If you're not registered, you register there and you vote. It's real simple. And but what's not simple is that if we do not get registered and vote, if we don't participate in this American project, the American project just it won't work. It requires your buy-in. It requires your vote. It requires your participation. And to that end, I want to hear from you. What questions do you want uh, to hear answered? I want you to call me at 773-763-9278 at the debate. What do you want to hear from Brandon Johnson, from Paul Vallis? What questions have not been asked, have not been asked most fully? What answers have not have that what answers are unsatisfactory to you? Please call me at 773-763-9278. I promise you I'm going to get you on this morning. Hey, Dave. Hey, Renee. Hey, Janet, my girl. How you doing? Robert, Mark Stevens, Jewel from New York, Andre from Chicago, and then Linear Bob, and sending all of you all so much love. Laura, everybody like and share, like and share, like and share this show today. And Dr. Max Wolf sent a very interesting article to me. Ann Pettifor, who's an economist based in England, is talking about class warfare. Class warfare that's being launched upon the poor and working people by the big banks. What do you think about that? I mean, the Fed has been told, and they're really the collection of banks, the Fed has been told, look, when you hike interest rates, the people who are going to get hit the most, hit the hardest are the low wage workers, are the rich. I mean, are the poor people. They continue to hike the interest rates. They're like, we're trying to kill inflation. The way you kill inflation is to deal with these corporations that continue to drive up prices without being checked. How about that? How about that? So please, let's talk about that. That's the dirty little word in America. We never want to talk about class, but because we've racialized it. But the fact is, classism is very, very much a part, is deeply embedded in the fabric of our nation and, quite frankly, in the world. So think about that today. So call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. I want to hear from you today. What questions do you want to have asked at this mayoral debate? Let's get to some of these headlines on Thursday, March 23rd. 2023. In Chicago, we're going to have a high of 46 degrees, scattered thunderstorms. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 36 degrees, partly cloudy. In the NBA, oh, as we're coming into the postseason, I love it. The 76ers 116 with the Bulls 91, but at least the Timberwolves, hey, they were triumphant last night, 125 to 124 over the Hawks, a nail biter for sure. Chicago in the NHL will be playing the Capitals tonight, and the Wild will be facing off against the Flyers. Is anyone following TikTok in that battle? Wow. In the meantime, let us first send all of our love and appreciation and respect to our brothers and sisters of the Muslim faith. For the next month, Muslims all around the world will observe Ramadan by abstaining from eating and drinking during daylight hours, not even water, everybody. The daily Ramadan fast, rooted in spiritual activities and self-reflection, takes place from dawn to sunset and concludes with a communal gathering. You can say Ramadan Mubarak to those celebrating, and also review an etiquette guide that you can find on CNN. But you send all of our love to our brothers and sisters of the Muslim faith, sending them much love today in this Ramadan season over the next month. Later today, according to CNN, President Joe Biden will make his first visit to Canada since taking office, to meet with the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, and to address the country's parliament, according to the White House. Traditionally, U.S. presidents make a stop in our country's northern neighbor in the opening months after taking office, but COVID-19 prevented that, and so I'm sure that he will have a great visit today. California is experiencing major weather whiplash after a years-long historic mega drought. Before the powerful atmospheric river storm this week, many people welcomed this season's heavy rain and snow that the state so desperately needed. But now the storms keep coming and coming and coming and are leaving widespread destruction in their wake. Mudslides, people losing their homes. It is really, really California Brothers and sisters are having a hard time. Pray for them. I'm wondering if insurance is going to work out there. Two faculty members at a Denver high school were shot by a student on Wednesday, prompting a frantic search for the 17-year-old suspect who fled the scene after firing his gun. Authorities on Wednesday said they located a body a short distance from a vehicle connected to the suspect, but have not identified the body at this time. And to show you the impact that not having universal single payer health care and the Dobbs decision ending effectively Roe v. Wade. Guess what? The rural hospitals in the United States, they've been forced, um, well, they're declining. They're being closed. Okay, and they're facing a decline that is very dangerous for people who live in rural America. Well, according to the Washington Post, Bonner General Health in Sandpoint, Idaho, has been forced to announce that they will not be able to deliver babies. They are going to have to close their labor and delivery department, citing a staffing issues, as well as the state's punitive abortion ban, one of the strictest in the nation, and threats from state Republicans to make the law even more stringent. The state's ban criminalizes abortion cases in almost all cases and threatens doctors who provide care with felony charges, suspension or termination of their medical license, and 5 years in prison. So they are losing doctors, everybody. So in this area, if you have a baby, God bless you. And those are some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. We've got good news with the pastor of Grace Central. We love Pastor Darius Brooks, of course. He is one of the leaders of the Tommies. We, of course, thank God for Milton Brunson and your brother Percy Beatty. Down through the years, you all have given us so much great music. And I'm so glad that the Tommies reunion tour is in full effect. Packing out churches and auditoria all over the country. Sending you much love today, but you are also feeding people. Just very quickly, how can people get some of the food that they need from your church, Pastor Brooks?
Actually, we're excited. Grace Central Church, 10216 South Kitchener Street, Westchester, Illinois. That's right off of 290 and Manheim. Every Tuesday from 5 till 7. And every Wednesday, noon till 2 for seniors. Every Tuesday for the community from 5 till 7. And every Wednesday from noon till 2 for the seniors. We give between $200 to $300 worth of food each week. We're celebrating a community and helping and doing our job as the body of Christ in the church and loving it. We're doing it before the pandemic, doing it during the pandemic, and doing it right now as we speak. Again, that's Grace Central Church. If you know anybody who needs food for real or who's going through, Grace Central Church, 10216 South Kitchener Street, Westchester, Illinois, on Tuesdays from 5 to 7 for 8 different communities, and then we do noon to 2 for seniors. GraceCentral.net if you want the information to get some food for you. Santita, I'm excited about the lamp unto our feet, a light unto our path. For real, in every area of our lives, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, spiritually, socially, culturally, verbally, sexually, professionally, personally, in every area of our lives. And we just talked about right before we go on the air, in all our ways, acknowledge God. And Santita, if we do our counts and our searches, God has never failed. He says that David says, I once was young, but now I'm old, but all my appointed days I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor their seed begging bread. If you really find anybody who's into God's word for direction, they will not fail. It's only when we get halfway into it sometimes and play with it or forget God or God that we deal with some of the hurts and pains. And it's empty. The Romans 14:22 and 23 says, have thou faith, have it to thyself before God. Happy is he that condemneth not himself in that thing which he alloweth. And he that doubteth is damned if he eat, because he eateth not of faith. So we're going to be focusing on Santita. For whatsoever is not of faith is vain. Santita, I want to share with somebody today the journey of the good news is he's more faithful than good. God is more faithful. Because when we reduce God to good, we miss out on some of the most powerful positions of God. I often show the great essential. I'd say God is God. Because if we can keep God God, He'll keep us good in any situation because He'll give us what to do with it. But if we reduce God to good, when God be God, and sometimes our good, He has to take out the way for a minute because we get too comfortable with it, thinking it's Him, it's us and it. He got to sometimes permit what He hates to create what He loves and to remind us, hey, what you doing? That's me. I'm God. Now, wait a minute now. So He's more faithful than good. Dealing with this generation of baggage, we've become skeptical. Santita, growing up in church, we were taught things, theologies that gave answers to every situation. True faith was assumed, and questions were not always welcome, yet doubt and cynicism mark much of who we are today. Growing up in the 80s and 90s and even now gave us reasons to question perceived truths. Well-known people that we know in high positions in church and synagogues and places and businesses have fell off of much of what we've experienced and made us fall short of what was promised. And so we doubt our faith, our family, our love for each other, the motivations of God's word and stories of some believers who have written their experiences on how God has brought them out of a dark place into a marvelous life and advice. The motivations of the apostles who have shared with us, don't you ever give up on God, even in 23, has to be reminded in our lives that even then in 2023 you could do this thing today. He's more faithful than good, Santita. To those who have been separated from the church because of doubt, keep searching and questioning. To those who have remained silent and quiet, struggling with their faith, be honest, talk to yourself. Leave room for God's uncertainty. But one thing I'd recommend is that you allow God to defend Himself. Santita, that thing right there, whoever you are under the sound of my voice, I know what you're seeing, I know what you're looking for, but you please do yourself a favor and allow God to defend Himself, because He's not a God that He should lie. So often we live as if God and His word really solely is on others. God has called the believer to live as truth and light in Him, and His truth will not cease, and His light will not be darkened. Instead of making God's truth a reputation, our responsibility is to live honestly and obedient about our faith in and through Him as individuals. You who have faith, work it. Those of you who doubt, get more involved in seeking the truth. And this time around, do it between you and God. I just heard on your show, the social media is with you through your journey's life. And it's so true, Santita. And God told me to share this again, because often people listen to your show and they don't get the goodies. And one of the things I reiterate with Great Essentials information formation, just because I got it, don't mean I got it. Some things, sometimes you got to replay some things in your heart to say, wow, man, go right there. It's with you, and with you married to God and how He makes sense out of this whole journey. Don't let your words just be a faint whisper, and not let your trusting and your actions be a mighty shout when it comes to God and His direction in you. Santita, as I close, I want to share with people, I postpone what's for me the longer I entertain what's not. I postpone what's for me the longer I entertain what's not. And when it comes to God, He's more faithful than good.
Amen to that. Get on the right path, everybody. Get on the right path so you can get what is your highest good. Your highest good. How can we get food from your church once again, Pastor Brooks?
Great Central Church, 10216 South Kitchener Street, Westchester, Illinois. That's right off of 290 in Manhattan. Every week. So whoever you know that need food, y'all call us. We're excited about serving Santita. We got cars 4 and 5 and 6 blocks around our church. And as a matter of fact, we look forward to seeing these people get food. Great Central Church, GreatCentral.net. And we doing it for real. This ain't just talk. We are literally these people telling their friends or cousins about us. We got people coming to morning service because of the way we give to the 8 different townships around us. People of God, God is real. He's going to supply your need, even through people you will never meet or know. Just stay in His real. GraceCentral.net. Go there and get all of the information. 10216 South Kitchener Street, Westchester, Illinois, every Tuesday from 5 to 7, and every Wednesday from noon to for the seniors. And we're excited.
And there is no shame in getting in that line and getting some help, everybody. We all need somebody to lean on every now and then. Sometimes in your life, we all have pain, we all have sorrow. That is real. That is real. I thank God that my father did not have so much pride that he did not get in the line at Fellowship Missionary Baptist Church. And he was their youth pastor. He was their youth pastor. But his scholarship money had run out. He and my mother were both working to help him get through school. My mother had a job at the library at the University of Chicago, but it wasn't enough. And their parents could not help them. But guess what happened when he got in that line? Reverend Evans came out to greet everyone, and he saw his youth pastor who had been driving him around in the line, and he pulled him out the line. He said, "Son, you're going to be a pastor one day." And my father said, "I'm not too proud to stand in this line. I've got a wife and babies. I'll do what I need to do as long as it's the right thing to make sure that they're all right." And from then on, Reverend Evans had someone delivering food to our house every week. You don't know where your blessing's going to come in, everybody. And I'm so glad that I'm my parents' eldest child, so I can think of these stories because they're part of my testimony. And no test, you don't have a testimony. I thank God. I thank God. I thank God. I thank God. I'm glad my father was not too proud to get in that line and get some help, that he did not go out and steal. I'm glad he didn't do that. But certainly I will say this. When you continue to deny people the access to affordable housing, to food, to health care, you will hear the riots, because the riots are the language of the unheard. A lot of things happen, everybody. When you continue to deny people basic rights to live, and eating is one of those rights. Go to GraceCentral.net, everybody, so you can find out how you can just get in that line and get you something to eat. Feed yourself and feed your babies. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. Call me at 773-763-9278. And let's talk about the mayoral election. Put on the Santita Jackson and Friends and the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel just the questions that you want. But I want you to call in. I want to hear your voices. I want to hear your voices. I think texts are great, but there's something to be said for hearing the human voice. I want to hear what you have to say about what you want from this next mayor and the questions you have of these candidates. It'll be Paul Vallis or Brandon Johnson, one of the two. So come on, everybody. I'm going to stay tuned so you can get some tickets from this show on WCPT 820 and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Back in just a moment. Thank you, Darius Brooks. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It was wonderful. It really was. It was wonderful. Tough occasion, but, being with him and, he's so uplifting. I'm going to bring him on because he's got such a powerful testimony himself. And I want to talk about, I told him I want to bring him on to talk about adoption. And, oh yeah. He's got a very powerful story. And Black children are the last adopted in the system. And the darker you are, the less likely you are to be adopted. So there's a lot going on there.
Wow.
Yeah, the lightest skinned Black children. And I wouldn't take that out on these kids, okay? Look, I'm from a family where you got the lightest of the light and the very, very brown. So, and my parents had all of us, same parents. That's just the way it works out genetically, right? But what is painful is to know that is real today. That's very real today. A friend of mine, Morehouse man, has adopted, I'm going to bring him on too. He's adopted 2 Black children. They're dark skinned. His Black friends want to know why he picked them. You can't make this stuff up. Whew, boy. We've all been talking to some craziness. So I'm going to let you go, Reverend, so we can get these lines. But I love you, Darius.
We have the attorney Aaron Conley on.
Okay, wonderful. Aaron, how you doing, sweetie?
Good morning, Miss Santita. I miss you.
Oh,
Meeting panel on you today.
Oh, well, look, girl, I think that I've called you, pressing send is important. Which I have been forgetting. Pressing send is important. I have been missing you many mornings because I've fallen asleep holding my phone. Just tired, Oh,
Yeah.
man, I have been tired. I'm like, what is all that about? I have been very, very tired, but there's a lot going on. But I'm glad to hear your voice.
There's a lot going on.
I mean, with everybody.
That daylight savings lasts longer than we think.
You know what? But my body adjusts to that like maybe a month and a half before. My body will make the adjustment. It's a funny thing. Like I've never ever used an alarm clock. Who do we have now? Xavier?
Yes, Mr. Jackson.
Hey, sweetie, how are you?
I am good. Wonderful. How are you?
Oh, it's wonderful hearing your voice. Wonderful hearing your voice. I cannot wait to hear what your thoughts are about all of this. Okay.
It is. It is down to the wire.
I'm going to ask everyone to handicap this. Don't do it yet.
I got you. Ready.
Well, we're on Facebook Live, though. But boy, oh boy, this is some interesting stuff. I tell you that.
Oh. 30 seconds.
Okay, who else do we have here?
I am calling the rest of them now.
Okay.
3 more people.
Okay, fantastic. But I'm going to start with you, Xavier, and you, Attorney Aaron Connolly. Do you all know each other? Well, now you've been in. Okay.
Xavier was on United Rebellion leadership team way back when we started.
Fantastic.
Yeah, let's hear from you.
Always like to make sure. Stand by. All right, here we go.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. Let us talk about this mayoral race, the Chicago mayoral race 2023. On March 31st, next Friday, we will be having a debate, WCPT. Kind of put us on the map just a few weeks ago during I call it the primary because that's what it ended up being, but it was really the election, February 28th. But because no one got 50% plus one, we had to have a runoff, and here we are. So if you want to get these tickets, keep listening so I can give some tickets away before we get off the air today. Everybody, I want to know if you were in my spot or Joan Esposito's spot or Patty Vasquez's spot. What question would you want? I mean, and there's a team who are assembling the questions. And what I want to know is, what question do you want to put on the table? Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. I want to know, what are the questions that you think need to be answered, the questions that have not been posed, the questions that have been evaded. I mean, and what are the needs, really? Not just the wants, but what are the needs? What are the needs? What are the needs? Call us at 773-763-9278. And everybody, like and share on the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook and the Santita Jackson Show on YouTube. Sending you much love today. I have got a tremendous panel who are coming aboard. But first, we have got, of course, Sister Beloved, Aaron Connolly, attorney Aaron Connolly, brilliant political strategist and organizer. And we have got someone who I haven't seen in a long time, but he kind of cut his teeth on the Jackson campaign, Xavier Nigueras. And I'm so glad that you're with us. And indeed, he has now become this media mogul. We're so proud of him. The Boca Media Group. All right, it's the mouth. I'm not mad at you. Now talk to us. Talk to us and let us know. Okay, just what are we looking at with this race? Because it just seems like handicap it for us. Yeah, yeah, I'm giving you that because I just can't call it.
I think there. When we talk about this race, there's four things that need to happen for Johnson that I look at, right? First and foremost, the consolidation of the black vote. I mean, we can talk about all sorts of stuff, and we're going to talk about it today, right? We talk about just the great potential that Johnson has with progressives and white liberals in the lakefront, with young voters, some of the increase that we're seeing in the Hispanic community. But at the end of the day, this is about also, most importantly, the consolidation of the black vote. We're seeing all this, this black leaders is endorsing Dallas, is endorsing Johnson, but it's about the people. At the end of the day, the people. If you look at the poll, the people are, no matter what, they're consolidating for Johnson. That is where the potential is. And then, of course, the excitement that's going on with young voters with Johnson, that's what's going to put him over the top. And, folks talk about the Latino community. Oh, this person or that person, this candidate or that candidate needs to win the Latino community. But at the end of the day, when you look at the numbers, Johnson just has to have parity in the Latino community. He just has to stay competitive. He doesn't have to really win it. He just has to stay competitive, stay in par with Dallas, and the rest is going to take its course. But the excitement that's going on with young people is really being overlooked. It's hard to gauge that in polling, but it's there. It's happening on the ground. And when you look at the ground game, Johnson has the ground game. And so that's where that growth is happening. And again, I'm going to keep on talking about it, the consolidation of the black vote. Because if Johnson, at the end of the day, if Johnson can't get 78% of the black vote, it's going to be really hard to win this for Johnson. But if you look at the polls, it's happening. He's consolidating that vote.
What is he doing? Is it his message, or what do you think?
Outside of his message, outside of who he is, the alignment of the values, look, and I'm saying this. I know people are going to tell me. I'm really saying this in a nonpartisan way. At the end of the day, Dallas's values are really being revealed. Like this isn't just Johnson. Dallas is just doing it to himself. Dallas has this great base that he starts off with, which is why in the beginning people are like, oh, it's going to be really hard for Johnson to overcome this base that Dallas had. But in order for Dallas to maintain that base, he's got to placate to them, and it's hard now for Dallas to continue to placate to that base and not reveal who he really is, and then have folks in the black community say, well, yeah, of course we're aligned with this, but not just in the black community, for young people to say, whoa, wait a second, that's not, Dallas, that's not who we want to be mayor. And then other things, like the alignment of values of, for example, upper-income white women on the lakefront, right, who fought so hard, who really turned on folks because of choice, and they're looking at Vallis now, they go, wait a second, is this guy really a Democrat? Right? So Vallis wants to maintain that base in the 31st Ward, in the 19th Ward, in the 13th Ward, some of his folks in the lakefront. And again, there's a revealing happening right now. And then, of course, the great messaging. I got to tell you, Brandon really is on fire. And folks are saying, I hear folks saying, well, yeah, maybe he needed to do that early on. And folks don't understand it's about momentum. Brandon is on fire at the right time. He's carrying that momentum into the election. That's very dangerous. It's like when you have an opponent that's carrying that momentum, it's really hard to stop a moving train.
Everybody, what do you think? Call us at 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Renee Criswell says Vallis wants to get rid of the residency requirements for police officers. That sounds like Ferguson and Baltimore to you, and slave patrols for real. That's what she's saying. What say you, Kevin Lampy? How can you handicap this race? Where are we? And what question do you think needs to be asked at this debate?
Santita, it's good with you. It is what people need to keep asking is where does Vallis stand? It's emerging more and more in this race that Vallis is much farther to the right than the average voters in Chicago are. I think we need to be asking him, where does he really see race relations in the city? Where does he see the differences, the economic differences and disparities that happens here in Chicago? We need to keep pushing him to find out where does he really see the city? What is his relationship going to be with city council? Is it going to be a city council that exerts itself more than it has in the past? Are we going to actually get back to the model that it really should be of a weak mayor, strong city council that represents more the interests of the people? It really is. We need to be talking about what is going to be his leadership style. I think we see it in the debates where he is dismissive, where he is just not relating well to what is to how he is going to handle problems on a daily basis as mayor.
Everybody, Janet Sherwood Sussman says Valid is a closet fiscal Republican. Ooh. Call me 773-763-9278. Attorney Aaron Connolly, your thoughts?
Well, I'm so glad to be on this amazing panel this morning. And the two things that I really want to lift up from both of their comments are momentum. Brandon is coming in at the right time hot, right? And I was at an amazing women's event on Saturday with a coalition of a rainbow coalition, Santita. It really was. And it had energy and hope and promise. And all those folks knocked on thousands of doors that day. That's the best part. And didn't sleep on Sunday and went back out on those doors. So they're doing the work, they're showing up, and they're excited about it. And you can't fake that, right? Those are the people that get other people to vote for you. And that's where we are with the turnout game. Early vote has started, so technically we are in GOTV, right? It's a different ball game. So we're doing turnout for early vote, reminding those folks and those champions to make sure they show up and cast their ballot. And I think something that Kevin said struck me, because how I'm approaching looking at this race and the aldermanic candidates as well, and we see more contributions flowing in on Illinois Sunshine by the day. And it is, what you're going to stand on for policies, but how you're going to operate in city council, right? That's so important. And we saw that with Mayor Lightfoot, and that wasn't a place where she was very effective in building those coalitions, relationships, and, movement for our city, right? We need to get more done. So I also look who his friends are. Who are the people contributing to him? Who are the people that he's surrounding himself with for endorsement? Who are his likely allies in city council, and what do they champion? Is that the type of mayor that I want? Do I want someone that thinks he knows everything, or someone that's really willing to sit down and listen not only to the other alders, but the communities that are impacted by these important decisions that this council makes for us in the city, right? So let's look at who his friends are. Who is sending him to City Hall? And how is he going to operate based on those influences? That is really important. And you know in Chicago more than most places in this country, who influences you is really who gets some of those contracts, what interests are served, who is getting tax benefits versus tax burdens. And the people are tired of holding all of those burdens. They're seeing someone who understands the concept that the very wealthy, millionaires and billionaires that often don't even live in Chicago but come work in Chicago aren't paying their fair share for those corporate entities to be here. Let's do some things that make sense, right? And I think people are really connecting those dots and understand we want someone in City Hall that really can listen to them and cares. And Brandon Johnson is showing up for every community in the city right now, and I think they're going to show up for him.
Call us at 773-763-WCPT. Reverend Stephen Thurston.
Hey, Carol, one of the issues I believe that needs to be raised is a quote that Mayor Lightfoot said. She quoted, it's quoted as saying, we simply can't just arrest our way out of this problem. We can and we must invest our way out of this problem. To that point, $402 million has been allocated to Chicago anti-violence initiatives from the federal government, but only roughly 6% of that money has been spent so far, and not all of it wisely. And we've got 2 years left to spend this money. Candidates need to be pressed on how they'll ensure that this is done effectively and equitably. And to stem the tide of violence, since violence continues to be a pressing issue in the campaign. There's money there to address it, but the money hasn't been spent. So what would these candidates do differently than Lightfoot did to make some real change and make a mark in this area in our city?
Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch, New Mount Pilgrim. And of course, Pastor Thurston is from New Covenant. He's a retired pastor, the recently retired teaching pastor of the Salem Baptist Church, but he is at his family church, New Covenant, right now. And of course, New Mount Pilgrim, that beautiful cathedral here in Chicago. Your thoughts about this race? Because it just seems like it's also people getting quite emotional about it. Pastor.
Thank you, Santita, and to this great panel. Listen, this is a national race. You know, all eyes are on Chicago. It's going to be a bellwether for what to expect in 2024. And so I think we often say it, but we can't overstate this time. This is the most consequential mayoral race in our lifetime for those of us that came of age more or less after Harold Washington. It's a generational race, number one. Brandon is 47 years old, 47 years old. And it is really time for young people of his generation to stand up and take the reins of leadership. And so, you know, Dallas sort of represents a past, Brandon the future. It's not only generational, it's ideological. When we look at how we will police is really one of the things on the table. You know, whether or not we can have more or less a red police department in a blue city. 1950s police departments, I was talking about going back and bringing forth retired officers to fill out the ranks, as opposed to smart policing and creative ways of policing. And so that's on the table, a real left-right divide. I mean, it's a classical election. I mean, this is typical sort of class clash where we see the interests of the neighborhoods versus the downtown and the corporate interests line up on one side and the interests of the neighborhood on the other. So that divide is stark and deep and will be decided in Pleasant direction. Then lastly, it really is racial, and not in terms of black against white, but against progressive ways of thinking about race relations versus a sort of regressive way of looking at the people groups, particularly African Americans and brown people, as sort of problematic, as opposed to looking at systemically the barriers of people that are black and brown in this city and progressive ways of addressing racial equity. So all of those things are on the table in this race, and it is a national race. For those of us that get to participate, it
Well, I want to know what about these? It seems that at these rallies, there have been disturbances, and I'd like for everyone to weigh in on that. But let me start with you, Pastor Hatch, because you were at the talk to us. What's going on here?
Fairly well-known provocateurs. So some people spend their money on the street, literally, to hire people to be disruptive. And it doesn't take many people to be disruptive. It just takes somebody being out of order when most people are in order. And so I think what we're saying is not something that's organic, but we're saying people who are a little bit been paid, as happens in Chicago almost every election cycle, but certainly one that's this dynamic. It's in many cases the same cast of characters who get paid, particularly from the Republican side, to disrupt events in the black community, to make the black community look divided, volatile, and dysfunctional.
But I mean, I just it could be Democrats too. Because remember, we grew up in Chicago. You had to fight the Democrats all of my life. Bless our hearts, but that's just how that's been. It's the Democratic machine that still pushes back nationally and locally against progressive candidates. And I think we have to really be mindful of these people who come into these peaceful spaces. And Reverend Thurston, they could stir up violence. I think that's one of the things that really concerns me.
Yes, I think that's what I had said. We've seen this guy for characters for years, especially in the country states, having meetings for trying to address policy issues, and that gas would show up at that and just wreak havoc. And we've been diligent over the years of making sure that we have people in place to ensure that safety was priority, and we would expeditiously lead those individuals towards an exit to calm the situation and get back to focusing on what we're there to talk about and to deal with for the benefit of people.
Let me ask you this, Kevin Lampy. Do you think that the corporate media have shaped the narrative for the campaign? At least the corporate narrative, which is crime, crime, crime. But of course, when you talk to Black and brown people, it's much more consequential. I mean, should I intersectional? That is to say, what's consequential? Crime, education, a lack of access to education, lack of affordable housing, not being paid enough on your jobs. I mean, you can just keep on going. There's not just one thing that Black and brown people mention. It's several things. Do you think we're getting a fuller picture of where, I mean, just of where this, of where people are, or is the corporate media, are they still driving the messaging in this campaign? And then, of course, Xavier, I'm going to ask you about that as well.
I think what has happened over the course of the runoff here is the media has done a better job, particularly in the forums where media has been a major partner and the corporate media has been a major partner, and they have asked more probing questions. They have asked, they've not just stuck with, what are you going to do about crime? Are we going to arrest ourselves out of this situation? But they have dug deeper into the difference between the two candidates, and I think exposed their different approaches. I think we've seen candidates who are, each of them has demonstrated their approach as getting better. The momentum has definitely shifted to Brandon Johnson. I think it's because he hit the streets running on the day after the election and moved forward. We're seeing a continual exposure of who is with who and who's getting money. And I think the public is getting a good view of each of these candidates and which direction they would like to take the city.
Well, I mean, Xavier, why don't you respond to what Kevin just said and give us your own observations? I mean, because you are a media expert. What's happening here?
I am involved in this, one of the founders of the Illinois Latino Agenda, which is a group, nonpartisan, like over 30 nonprofits who've gotten together, to voice and advocate for Latino community. A lot of that came out of the Illinois Unidos, which I was founders of, which happened during COVID, and they were involved with I don't know if you're familiar, that just happened on Monday, the Black and Brown conversation with the mayoral candidate. And it was very interesting. It was a really different debate. It was hosted by Dorothy Tucker and Evo Bagda, Latino, African American, and the conversation, was about specifically African American and Latino, and I asked people to check out this conversation because it was really different. The way Brandon spoke was really good. He was speaking to African American and Latinos, and the way Val spoke was really different. You saw a lot of pandering. And what's happening here is I have to give credit to a lot of reporters of color that are really, like Kevin said, that I got to give them credit. It's been a little different in the runoff. You're really hearing the issues outside of client. You're hearing education, investment, housing, jobs. And I think that's really changing the different perspectives of the mayoral race. That it's good to see that it's not just about crime. Yeah, crime is number one, but if you look at polling, it's not like number one and that's it. It's number one on the list, but there's a list of other issues that are important to people.
Everybody call us at 773-763-9278. What do you think about this mayoral campaign? In the next hour, I'll be giving away tickets to our WCPT mayoral debate. You don't want to miss it. It's March 31st, next Friday. You will see Paul Vallis. You will see and hear Paul Vallis and Brandon Johnson. What questions do you want to have on the table? It's your opportunity now to let us know. 773-763-9278. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Whew. All right, you all, we're on Facebook Live. You all can continue to talk. It just, I have to tell you, watching these provocateurs, that's been a little. I think I was thrown by that. Not, I think I have been.
Well, and those provocateurs don't just show up at the media events and press conferences. This type of shenanigans is happening with our field staff, with volunteers being harassed. It's going to get worse as it gets close to Election Day. There's business owners that have signs that get harassed or get them stolen. And this is nothing new. And I do want to flag, Santita, that for the female candidates that I've worked for, it is much, much worse. It is much, much worse. There is a sense of extra dismissiveness, especially for women of color. And these type of antics and intimidation are, I see, ramped up specifically on women of color and volunteers that are young and new to the process. So it's something that needs to change about our political system in the city, and it's disappointing to see an increase in this cycle.
In fact, we're going to have a candidate with whom you've been working either tomorrow or Monday to talk about that and where she stands, because you see this happening. Every action merits an equal and opposite reaction. So on one level, I think Xavier and Pastor Hatch and Pastor Thurston and Kevin Lampy, I think we should feel flattered because that means we are really, Xavier, everybody, we're making some progress because these people are now pushing back real hard. But it's just, it's the ugliness that is unsettling to me.
But, a lot of people don't realize that, like when they look at the campaign, I hate to believe this happened in Rom's campaign. It was the exact same thing, and it happens because the money, like this is driven by, a lot of this is driven by money. I mean, folks are doing this because they're getting paid, and I think a lot of people sometimes look at this and they see the Judas effect, right? You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And luckily, I think people do get turned off. As horrible as, it's horrible that it's happening, but I think sometimes it does hurt the candidate that's encouraging this stuff and paying for this stuff because, but it is very concerning because a lot of this stuff is being funded by actual campaign dollars.
And you know what, Xavier, and I think that both candidates need to speak to this. I think they both need to speak to this and disavow it. And I think that the media ought to investigate who is paying these people.
Yeah,
I'm serious. I mean, come on.
Yeah. And the sad part is, I know it's happening in all communities, but it's really, really happening in the Black community.
Oh yeah.
Because that's how it started to show by saying, at the end of the day, all these great things are happening for Johnson, but the one thing that has to happen is, the consolidation of the Black vote. And Paul knows this, and he's not, he just needs to break it. That's all, and that's what they're doing. And that's a sad statement that I'm making right now. That's one of the goals of Vallis's campaign, is to break the Black community. I can't believe I'm actually saying that out loud, but it is. And then, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, it is obvious that one of the practices we have to sort of create the narrative, that this election is a foregone conclusion if Vallis is going to be elected, which is ridiculous. But as you say, there's got to be.
Oh, okay. Hold on one second. Oh, thank you. Bring that down just a little bit more. There you go. But keep on, Pastor Hatch, you were saying?
No, there has to be this sort of disruption of that community, which is why we said, I know that we sort of always want to be even-handed in media, but this is not really even-handed. That's coming from one side. Mm-hmm. That crazy provocateurs disrupt the Black community is really coming out of the Vallis campaign. People are lined with it. Mm-hmm. It's not even-handed.
Okay, hey, I'm saying I think we should speak to that, and I think that he should speak to that, and I think that Brandon Johnson should too. Either you support it or you disavow it, and if it's coming out of your campaign, you need to shut it down. Because one of the things that I've learned from Reverend is that after these campaigns are over, we all have to live together. Okay. So you can be as hot under the collar about this race as you want to be. At the end of the day, April 5th, we will have a new mayor, and we have to live with each other. Either you want the city to move forward, or you want it to blow apart.
I think that you have something so important, Santita, that was something my wife, Kay Kirk, was telling me the other day, is that we may need the biggest kiss and makeup party 20 minutes in history of the city. Mm-hmm. The day after this election.
Well, yeah, because Reverend had one, and you might have to do it again. And I wouldn't be averse to it, because this is like, it's so ugly. And and Xavier, to your credit, you have been saying that the Black community is at the heart of this, and I think you should say it on the air too, that breaking Black consensus is the goal, because that's the only way. Frank Watkins, oh, don't you miss him now, Reverend Hatch? Oh boy, he would say the same thing. He would be saying that right now.
30 seconds.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. Some of these people I absolutely miss. But we're here, so there it is. Okay, and Jewel, I'm going to come to you. Thank you for calling in.
10 seconds.
Okay.
Stand by.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the second hour of the Santita Jackson Show. We've been talking about the mayoral election. Of course, I've got a ticket giveaway. I'm going to give some tickets away to the mayoral debate hosted by WCPT. Joan Esposito, Patty Vasquez, and Santita Jackson. I, yours truly, will be moderating this debate. You don't want to miss it. Between Paul Vallis and Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson and Paul Vallis. Everybody is going to be great. It's going to be at the Morningstar Theater. And you don't want to miss it. We had a great time in February, and we can have a great time, but we want you to be there. And the way you get that ticket is to call in. So just stay right there. I'm going to be giving tickets away before the hour is out. And of course, at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be talking about class warfare. That's right. And the big banks. It is now being said that the big banks said that they are waging class warfare on the poor and on low wage workers. When you raise interest rates, it hurts poor people and low wage workers first, and they continue to raise these interest rates. What is the deal? Why is it that when you say you're conquering inflation, you conquer inflation by putting a check on these corporations who are making more money than they've ever made before, and they are unregulated? So how about that? All right, everybody. It's March 23rd, Thursday, 2023. Let's get to some of these headlines. Happy Ramadan to our Muslim brothers and sisters. They are fasting from dawn to dusk, everybody. They will observe Ramadan by abstaining from eating and drinking, even water, during these daylight hours. It's rooted in spiritual activities and self-reflection. It takes place from dawn to sunset and concludes with a communal gathering. All of our love to our Muslim brothers and sisters. We're going to get someone on to talk about it so that you can understand. We need to understand each other's paths to God. That's all it is. That's what your religion is, everybody. That's what it is. That's what it is. All right, everybody. Chicago will have a high of 46 degrees, scattered thunderstorms. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 36 degrees, partly cloudy. In the NBA, the 76ers 116, the Bulls 91, the Timberwolves 125, the Hawks in a nail-biter 124. In the NHL, Chicago will be playing the Capitals tonight, and the Wild will be playing the Flyers. Later today, President Joe Biden will make his first trip to Canada. It was delayed because of COVID, everybody. California is experiencing major weather disruptions. They even had a tornado just outside of Los Angeles. They never have that out there, everybody. And of course, they were in a mega drought. Now they are having mega mudslides because they have had so much water. Praying for our California brothers and sisters. 2 faculty members at a Denver high school were shot by a student on Wednesday, prompting a frantic search for this 17-year-old suspect who fled the scene after firing his weapons. Authorities on Wednesday said they located a body a short distance from a vehicle connected to the suspect, but have not identified that body at this time. Does everyone have TikTok? Even I have it. Hey, it's fun. TikTok CEO is scheduled to appear on Capitol Hill today in what will be his first public testimony before Congress. For the last week, the CEO has participated in near daily multi-hour prep sessions, CNN has learned, as he readies to face a bipartisan grilling from lawmakers on a number of issues, most notably data privacy and security. I wish they'd do that with all of the social media we have here, and those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. Robert Williams says, you like the back and forth debates because folks like Paul Vallis can't ramble from script. Okay. When asked questions at a forum. Okay, so we will see, everybody. And, hey, you want everyone to answer your questions. I'm seeing some questions about Commissioner Johnson and his tax proposals. You want those questions answered so that when people go into the voting booth, they can make informed decisions. But we've also been talking about these disruptions, these provocateurs who have been interrupting, really trying to prompt violence. Not just Aaron, as we have Kevin Lampy and Aaron Connolly and Xavier Nogueras and pastors, Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch Jr. and Reverend Stephen Thurston. Not just, Aaron, you said not just at these formal gatherings, but as people are out canvassing, they're also being harassed by these provocateurs. I didn't know that.
Yes. there's provocateurs, there's what we call trackers, but these trackers are getting out of their vehicles, following volunteers, talking to them, taking their literature off people's doors. And as we see early votes starting, when there's some of these get out the vote operations at some of the larger locations, we're expecting to see further confrontations with some of those volunteers and organizers that are out working for these candidates and causes, right? And so what campaigns are having to do is to train volunteers and make sure that they know how to de-escalate, what to report, whether they call the police, and it's why we have folks out and volunteers in pairs. We've had a few incidents on the campaign that I'm working with, and are expecting that to continue. So the culture of intimidation is at work in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
and doing this work in our democratic spaces, we should be able to feel safe, and that doesn't always happen. So that type of behavior really needs to change.
Wow. Hey, everybody, call us at 773-763-9278. Kevin Lampe, are you surprised by this? I mean, this is this spillage. Talk to me.
I am not surprised in this at all because the race has intensified. When momentum is shifting, you will see each side resort to tactics like this with getting provocateurs, with getting people trying to create the drama and create conflict. Clearly, I see this more from the ballot side of the campaign. Shows that the campaign is losing. That instead of trying to motivate the people to participate in the process, they're spending more time trying to demotivate them, trying to take away people's voice and be able to trying to get to the point where people don't want to vote and want to participate, and they want to suppress the vote, and that's always frustrating. I've always been an advocate of getting out as many people as we can to vote, but when people see these types of activities, that'll start to suppress the vote, and we don't need that. We need people to turn out and participate, regardless of who is trying to stop them.
Well, I mean, you're seeing almost like a split, Reverend Thurston, between people whom we love and respect in our community, in the Black community. Many of them are coming out and they're endorsing Paul Vallis, and yet their congregations, their adherents, their followers are going in another way. How do you read that?
Well, we all know that the Black community is not monolithic. People bring various views, perspectives, and relationships to the polling, to the voting booth. And so I believe that we can have differences without being disrespectful of each other's views and opinions. And we, put the facts before the people as best we can to inform them of the candidates' views and policy positions, and trust that our people will align with the candidate whose values align with their values.
Pastor Hatch? I mean, you have a lot of people. I mean, because we even had Congressman Bobby Rush, who's supporting Paul Vallis. And look, let me tell you something. I repeat, everyone, I certainly have my preference, but at the end of the day on April 4th, certainly by April 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, we all want what's best for Chicago. And it should not get violent, and it should not get ugly, and it should not split up families. It should not divide friendships. This should not happen. And you should not be following people as they are trying to get people out here to vote. And these provocateurs need to be called out, and those who are paying them need to be found out and called out. Pastor Hatch.
I think, as the young folks say, that's some of the realest stuff you said. I mean, we're all gonna get along after this, and we're gonna be mature. I think we've been through so many election cycles at this point, many of us, that we understand exactly how this goes. I mean, we do what we feel led to do in this season, and then afterward, we all find a way to get along and move forward and do what's best for the city. And so those mature voices, I'm sure, will have to emerge and carry the day after this election. That being said, I do, particularly in the black community. We had all of these black candidates running, and it was confusing. For me personally, it was confusing. But I can tell you this, kind of having my pulse on the community, listening to people, lots of listening, overhearing, ear hustling. I was actually doing. Just want to hear what people are saying. And it became clear to me when it came to the people on the grassroots, in the ground. I know their policy position. But personally, my people like Brandon. They just like him. I mean, and the more you look at him, he's likable. And so, my own personal sort of whatever endorsement that was or meant, I really just call myself following the people, which I think every good leader kind of listens to where the people are most of the time and try to figure out the wisdom of that. But it's very, honestly, just a breath of fresh air to find people who, find in a sort of political actor somebody that they kind of see as someone who they simply like, and of course, all of the policy positions can be, discussed, but I think they like Brandon's values. They like his family, they like his faith, his connection to Black church as a decided Christ, son of a preacher and a grandson of a preacher. So I think that, after this, we'll find a way to move forward, and hopefully, the prediction I always have is we know exactly who's going to win. It's the one who gets the most votes.
Well, now there's that. Well,
vote, yeah, people should vote, yeah.
Well, but Xavier keeps pivoting back to the importance of the Black vote and the fact that the Black vote, that there is really a movement afoot to break it. Can you explain that, Xavier?
It's I will ring the alarm. This vote could be the election could literally shift by the Black community just shifting 2% of the Black vote would literally make or break this election, and Dallas knows that. This isn't about convincing, 30% or whatever, or bigger percentage of the Black vote. This is a concentrated effort to shift 3 to 5% of the Black vote. That's it. And so, to do that, in your Dallas campaign, you are looking at, well, yeah, we want to make this investment to break the Black vote. And I know that sounds harsh, but that is what's happening. It's happened before. But this time around, it's really those small margins. And I think Dallas's camp is really seeing that it's becoming hard to do that, right? Like we're getting these pastors, or we're getting these elected officials to endorse Dallas, but it's not really shifting the mood of the people, right? So now what can we do? And they have the money, and they're going to do whatever it takes. And I'm sounding the alarm on this because, again, all it takes is a small shift in the Black vote to make a difference in this campaign, because Dallas has a feeling. Dallas can't get 78% of the white vote. And he is not, because the young white vote is overwhelmingly supporting Brandon. And again, I talk about the white women in the lakefront who are just not aligned with Brandon's values and don't see just crime as the issue. They feel, again, continue to an assault on their rights, women's rights, choice. They're not aligning with Dallas. So Dallas has a feeling with the white vote, and the Hispanic vote, there's only so much shift that can happen there. That is what they're really focusing on. How do we get that that we see the polling 78% for Brandon, right? How do we get that to 75, right? And it sounds small, but it is something that is urgent, that will shift the results of this campaign, and it has to be called out because money is being invested to break the black vote.
Not just spent. You're saying invested. Invested. What's the payoff? What's the payoff if it works?
The payoff it is history changing. Someone said something, right? Like, we're gonna have a red police, right? Like, you know, the continuation of black and brown folks not having the investment to stay in Chicago. We're talking about a new Chicago, and I appreciate all the voices here about talking about, well, you know, when this election is over, we have to get along. Absolutely, but we got to make this happen. Like, this is the opportunity right now. We have to ring the alarm. And again, and I warned you all in the beginning of the show that I'm going to continue to talk about the black vote. Again, like, there's a lot of success that is happening with on the north side with the amazing organizing that's happening by these young elected progressives. There's a lot of shift happening in the lakefront, but in the black community, is that excitement there for Brandon? I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm saying it has to be.
Well, what are you seeing in the Latino community? Are you seeing that same level of excitement, or is there more of a split?
It's more of a split, and that's for Brandon. That's okay, right? Mm-hmm. But that works out for him. But what I'm definitely seeing that is very different is that I think in the beginning of the Latino community, of course, safety is so important, and a lot of the suffering that has happened in our community with crime and gang and disinvestment. And let's not forget COVID. I mean, COVID broke a lot of communities. COVID really broke the Latino community. Latinos were there in the forefront as you know, as emergency workers. And I think, you know, when we're hearing more about a plan, right, from Johnson when it comes to, you know, jobs and education. Those things are super, super important in the Latino community. And, you know, and immigrants who come here to work, right? So I think folks are really seeing something different now. It's being reported, like, we're finally hearing the different issues, and I think that's really resonating in the Latino community. And when it comes to younger voters, Johnson has definitely captured the heart of young Latinos. That's not even a question. You saw it already, and you see it even more.
You know what? I've only got about 4 minutes left here. I want about a minute from everybody. Handicap this race. What's next? Aaron Connolly, 1 minute.
Well, early vote is on. We're seeing those votes roll in. So what's next is a full-on GOTV like we've never seen. So if you haven't voted yet, a good way to get folks to stop calling and texting you to go vote early.
Oh my gosh.
Get it done. People often forget that. So we have that availability in the city. You haven't registered. You can still register same day that you want to vote, same day voter registration. All of those requirements are on the Chicago Board of Elections, and they're making it very convenient to vote early, so you don't have to worry about it on election day, just in case. So we're seeing that. We're going to see a huge grassroots push this weekend. I can't wait to be out as a part of some of these day of actions. My favorite thing to do is to knock on doors and take my son with me so he understands really what it takes to fight against the corporate money that is currently controlling our campaign finance structure and our political system. And we see it in this race very very stark contrast in some of those funding resources, and that is who has the influence. So I don't want that to get lost in this. We have to see who is funding these folks and who has influence upon their choices.
Absolutely.
So you have a choice to get out on the street, to knock on some doors with us, to meet some great people, and to have some fun, because that's really what this is about too. We live in a world-class city. We pay a lot to be here. We pay a lot to work here. We have to show up and make sure that the future of it has our voice in it. And that's what I think Brandon is bringing to the table. I've got
about 30 seconds for you, Pastor Thurston, and for you, Pastor Hatch. Pastor Thurston?
As the young man said, it was important that the black vote shows up and turns out. Brandon has an appeal to young people, but the challenge has to be to get young people to the polls. 18 to 25-year-olds in the black community only showed up in 2%. 2%. The young people are sitting on their blissful assurances and not going to the voting booth. And so if we can turn out, we can help Brandon to show up on the 5th floor.
Oh, my gosh. Whew. Huh. Pastor Hatch.
Yeah. It's all about turnout, as the college said. And of course, this weekend we'll be at the New Mount Pilgrim Church on Sunday, hosting Reverend Jackson, Reverend Sharpton, and other trailblazers. We'll be honoring the memory of Ed Gardner with his family as a trailblazer for voter participation. And so it's all about turnout. We'll be at New Mount Pilgrim 5 o'clock on Sunday, 5 p.m. Everybody ready.
All right, everybody. Xavier Nogueras, Kevin Lampy, Reverend Stephen Thurston, Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch, Aaron Connolly. Thank you for being with us today. It has been great. I got to give these tickets away. I know all of you are going to be at this thing, at this wonderful, wonderful mayoral debate. I know you coming, Pastor Thurston. I know you coming, Pastor Hatch. I know you coming, Kevin Lampy. You and Kitty have to be there anyway. But it's going to be great. Attorney Aaron Connolly, Xavier, it's going to be great. I'm about to give these tickets away. Call me at 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278, so you can attend the debate. Call right now. If the line is busy, keep trying. Coming up, Dr. Max Wolf talking to us about class warfare and the big banks. Are they waging class warfare on us working people? Yes. Back in just a moment. My lovely people, I'm going to have to let you go so I can get some of these callers through, but thank you. And I am going to see just so that you know, it begins at noon, Pastor Thurston.
Okay, I'll text you and let you know if I can shift my schedule and be there.
Oh, no, you got to shift your schedule and be there. So,
yes, ma'am.
So I'm not going to even listen to all that. You can just save your text. You can text me about something else.
Yes, ma'am. Let me get on the phone now. Shit.
Yeah, I know Pastor Hatch is going to be there. So please, just give me a break.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I mean, you need to be there. What? It's one of the last big debates. Thank you. Next. Work it out.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
You're welcome. Yes. Work it out.
Thank you all. Such a pleasure to be on the panel with you this morning. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And thanks again for letting us use our voices.
Oh, look, you don't have to thank me. I think this is so important. There is so much going on here. Ooh, it makes your head spin. Oh, you are very welcome. You're very welcome. Please come to the debate. Let me know if you want to come. It's important.
Thank you, Santita. I would love to come to the debate, and if we could do Monday for Miss Lori, that would be great.
Okay, it'll be Monday or Tuesday. I just had something come up on my phone, so we're going to get that. We're going to work that out.
Okay.
All
right. Perfect.
Okay. Fantastic.
Let me know.
Of course. No, or call me and remind me because I'm a little swamped.
I will give you a call.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you, sweetie.
Okay.
Okay. All right, everybody. Ooh.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let me see. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Like and share the show. Like and share, like and share, like and share. Do you think that the big banks are waging class warfare on us? Yes. I said it. I'll add more to it before I take it back. How about that? But it's a lot. There's a lot going on, and they're talking about it more overseas than they are here, which is fascinating, right? You know, we don't like to talk about class in America because we've been able to racialize it. We talk about class all day, every day.
Ms. Jackson, for the tickets, would you like me to place them on hold, or you are just going to let me know who the winner is?
No. I want to bring them on the air. Who do we have?
We have Gregory. He's trying to get tickets, and we still have Jewel from New York.
Okay. Well, Jewel clearly is not coming, but do I need to give another set of tickets away as well?
Well, Gregory's on hold now. He's trying to get tickets.
Okay, is that it? I'm just doing one. I'm just giving two to him, or is it one to two people?
It's a pair of tickets for one person.
Okay, so I'm done giving away tickets after I speak with Gregory, right?
That's correct.
Okay, fantastic. Because you have to get all of his information. You have the form, right?
I do have the form, yes.
Okay, so just tell Gregory I'm gonna come to him as soon as because I want to congratulate the winner, and then I'll bring on Jewel, and then I'll bring on Dr. Wolf. All right, sweetie.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
$30 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Is Dr. Wolf there?
Yes, he is.
Okay, Dr. Wolf, how are you?
Stand by. Sally, good morning.
Stand by. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. You know it is Thursday, it's the bottom of the second hour, so you know it's time to talk to Dr. Wolf about matters economic and really intersectionality. That's one of the things I love about this brilliant man. As we get to him, let me bring on a couple of these callers, but first let me congratulate Gregory. Gregory, you won tickets to the debate on March 31st. Welcome. Congratulations to you.
Well, good morning. Thank you so much, madam. I got a ticket to go to the debate. Is that what I got?
Are you excited or what?
Yes, because I wanted to see them in action one-on-one, and hopefully I'm going to see Brandon try to woo the undecided and the people in the Vallis camp, and hopefully he won't do any one-liners. I think the short format tempts people to do one-liners to try to get heard, but it can, cause them to make negative, kind of cheap shots. And I think Brandon does a disservice to himself. I'd love to see him give a 20-minute college-style professor's lecture dissecting Paul Vallis's tenure and critiquing it, and that would really elevate the level of the debate. That's my comment for the day.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? I hope that when you're there, when you see me, please come up and say hello so I can give you a big hug.
Oh, that's kind of you, so sweet. Well, thank you very much. How do I get the ticket?
Well, I want you to hold and speak to my board operator because we're going to get your information so that you can come. Okay, so you don't drop. Stay right there. Okay.
All right, thank you so much, Michelle.
Okay, sweetie, stay right there. Do not leave. I have to make that real clear, everybody. Do not leave. Call me at 773-763-9278. Do you think that the banks are waging class warfare on on working people, on the poor. You know, Elizabeth Warren and many progressives and other economists, Robert Reich and many, are saying, look, when the Fed raises these interest rates, the people who take the biggest hit are the low wage workers and the poor. And yet they continue to lift these rates. And then you talk about inflation. Okay, my goodness, we've got to stop it. Of course you do. But you keep doing it through the banks without looking at regulating what corporations charge you for their goods and services. They're making more money than ever before. So, I'm no economist, but Dr. Max Wolf is, and so is this this fascinating economist out of Great Britain she predicted the great financial crisis, Dr. Wolf. And now she says that the banks have chosen class war over financial stability. Wow, what is the deal with Miss Pettifor? Talk to us. Welcome back to the show, my dear friend.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me. And indeed, she's an interesting economist who's been prescient and accurate in some other comments. I think one thing, just to make sure to contextualize, when she makes a reference in the article about her recent meetings, makes a reference about the banks, they're talking about the central banks.
Mm-hmm.
So talking about the government agencies who have, in some cases, one or two constitutional mandates from their various governments, right? So obviously, the way a central bank is formed, the public entity is a little bit different in one country from another, but she's mostly referring to the Bank of England, the European Central Bank, and the Federal Reserve, which is the central bank of the U.S.
Well, back that up just a little bit, because the European model and the American model are different. I mean, Europe has like several big banks, and America has big banks, a lot of community banks. We have a different model. Am I correct?
Yeah, we also don't have public banking, except for North Dakota, right? But so we don't also have public utility, not-for-profit banking, which other countries often have, right? Like a postal savings type of thing, where you can get basic financial services from a very secure institution that's actually, in some cases, many cases, in the post office, right? So we don't have some things that they have, and we have some things that they don't have. Well, there are differences in the banking system from one country to another, and the United States has been uncomfortable having a central bank. Also, the reason everyone else calls it the Bank of Europe, the Bank of England, the Bank of France, the Bank of Japan, and we call it the Federal Reserve System. So we didn't want to sort of admit we had a national bank. So I think the idea of having the public do things may be more problematic in American politics and culture than a lot of other places, and that's reflected in some of these things, right? So, yes, there are differences in both the comfort level and also the naming, and then also the rules, right? And also, one last thing is most central banks have what's called a singular mandate, like European Central Bank, which is price stability, right? So that you're constitutionally granted the right to intervene in the money supply and banking regulation to engineer price stability. So no deflation, rapidly falling prices, no inflation, rapidly rising prices. The United States has always had a central bank with a twin mandate in the modern era, and that is two-part, which is a little bit more complex, which is price stability, like everyone else, but also full employment. And the idea was to make sure that the bank wasn't too focused exclusively on the needs of wealthier and financial folks, but that would be focused on the needs of poor and or industrial non-financial folks. And the proxy for that, the way you try to get that focus into the mix is by saying you don't have one mandate, price stability, you have two, and the other one is sort of full employment to keep as many people working as is possible without inflation.
Well, Reverend Jackson often quips that, let's put full employment in its proper context, because in slavery you had full employment. I mean, maybe sometimes that's not the complete goal that we ought to have. So, but talk to me about class warfare. I mean, what was she asserting?
Yeah, so the reference here is that if you're going to inflict a certain amount of pain and slowing into a national economy to reduce inflation, which we are, right, then you should probably take a more fulsome analysis of inflation. In other words, where is it coming from? how can we control this? Can we control this? How can we control this? And we did. Otherwise, you do the sort of knee-jerk, which is talk about how wages are probably driving inflation. The reason that's interesting is because very little evidence of that. Right? So there is some wage growth, but not much. And it's after a long period of wage decline. And then the little wage growth we have had has been swamped by the price increases so that real wages, which is wages adjusted for prices, are actually down. So it's hard to look at the landscape around the world, but the U.S. did, and see the inflation is there. It's the strength of labor. That means if you can do things that really undermine labor a little bit, then labor will end up being the loser here. And we have seen this pattern, right? So labor underperforms in the boom, and then underperforms in the bust, and then underperforms in the recovery, right? So maybe this is partially captured by a nasty old labor market phrase of last hired, first fired. And when you think about it, if labor is the last one, working people are the last one to the party when there's a boom, and the first one on the floor when there's a bust, then over time it just acts to exacerbate the difference between the wealthy and poor. And I think that's largely what she talks about. I think in the context of the European conversation, there's often a sort of given that the interests of the wealthy and the interests of the poor are rarely identical. Sometimes they are, but they're rarely identical. So if you do something that hurts the poor, it's class warfare. If you do something that disproportionately helps the rich, it's class warfare. If you do something that disproportionately helps the poor, it's class warfare. That's kind of taken as given in most European discussions. Although it remains somehow controversial here. I think a little bit like climate change, right? Like, there's enough people with enough money who don't want us to agree on this thing that everyone is kind of agreeing on, that we kind of don't, but everybody else does, right? So I think sometimes conversations, and even words, might have a slightly different, might ring with a slightly different vibration in a European kind of reporting context, or British or continental, versus in the U.S.
Well, I mean, but this has resonated on the other side of the Atlantic with us too, in the United States. Why has it resonated with us? I mean, because, Americans are loath to discuss classism unless it is, racism, which is a form of classism. And of course, we have racialized classism in this country, but classism is with us, even with white folks.
Well, I think maybe one of the big secrets of the moment is, as we have an increasingly kind of 19th century pre-New Deal political landscape or economic landscape, we're going to go back to that reality. If a lot of people are extremely rich and extremely poor, and life is pretty fragile, and there's recurring serious crises, people are going to come to more aggressive, more polarizing opinion, because a world of rich and poor with chronic instability is not going to work with this idea of, hey, we're all in this together, big middle class, which was an ideology that held the country together in important ways, and helped the country grow and then win the Second World War and other things. But it was an ideology built of some underlying reality, which was things were getting more stable and fairly stable for a lot of people, never for everyone, but for a lot of people. And wages were rising for almost everyone for a long time, if not as much. And there was a general sense that I'll be better off if I play by these rules, and that the people who play by the rules, again, with notable exceptions, are largely going to be rewarded with something, right? May not be everything they need to deserve, but, materially better existence. I think as that breaks down, politics, the sort of moderation that goes with having a moderately good chance to have a moderate good life, if you take that away from people, the moderation of their beliefs comes apart too, right? I think you see some of that, right? You see that with people, dressed in pretty aggressive costumes, referring to past sedition or seditious movements that weren't successful in the U.S., rallying around the idea that the person they want to win won an election, even if that's pretty clearly looked to be the case, or a former president still under investigation. So last night he called out his mob who sacked the Capitol, calling the mob out again, potentially for the all-important national security matter of making sure he doesn't have a legal fallout from paying a porn star for some intimate company and other things that were clearly done to save the republic.
So, I mean, so where do we go from here with all of this? because now we've got rising interest rates. The poor and working people are being hit. They're being hurt. They're not seeing any relief. I mean, I hear the news stories, but in a practical way, Dr. Wolf, people are not feeling any ease at all. They are hurting out here. Um, Things that just you can't afford to go to the doctor. You can't afford to go to the emergency room. If you have a wage job, you can't afford to live in the city, any American city, increasingly, and on and on and on it goes. I mean, the knee is on everyone's neck. When is it going to come off?
Yeah, so look, I mean, I think if you give people an extremely unstable and extremely unequal economic landscape, or if that's what they're born into and that's what they deal with, some more successfully than others, then you can expect them to cotton to increasingly extreme understanding of their own life, right? So that also creates polarization and eventually political violence. And people sort of have tended to forget this day because we had a big middle class and a lot of opportunities here historically for a long time. Again, not for everyone, but overall pretty good by international and historical comparison for a pretty long time. And that is that people tend to be creatures of their environment. All people, all the time. And you give people a hard, harsh, and merciless environment, you're going to produce a fair number of people who are hard, harsh, and merciless. And if you make people desperate, they're going to eventually cling to ideologies that are quick fix, magic bullets, strong men, all the usual problems, right? The strong man, magic leader, the extreme ideology. These things are bred often of extreme living. Now, there's a lot of things, and there's individual responsibility and other issues. So, not a complete explanation, but extreme environments tend to produce extreme social and political movements. And it's pretty consistent across time and place, so it's pretty unlikely that it's fluke that we see that, right? And so I think part of what some of the economists are starting to point out is that privately, an increasing drumbeat, even some of the more centrist to center-right financiers, if you ask them what is the greatest risk to Western prosperity, they're already talking about inequality. Chinese are talking about inequality internally. The Indians are sometimes, when they're not trying to play ethnic divide and conquer games, right? And the two things that tend to happen is if you have extreme inequality, you get demagoguery, you get distraction, like, oh, it's the Dems versus the Republicans, it's the whites versus the blacks, it's the Muslims versus the Hindus, it's the Jews versus the Muslims, it's the Catholics versus the Protestants, it's the atheists versus the people of faith, it's the woke versus the non-woke. I mean, you could slice and dice anyway, sort of food processor approach to managing social problems. So you're going to get that, and you're just going to get a lot of anger, and you're going to get people with nothing to lose. And I think one of the things might be worth brushing up on for folks is that we didn't develop a big middle class out of charity or decency. We developed a big middle class because it was the most stable, most effective way to manage the inequities and frictions and political movements that tended to grow up in market economies. And so when the wealthy decided they didn't want to pay the taxes and play that game anymore, they seem to have largely forgotten that also probably meant losing that social stability and some of that social glue. Different countries have taken pretty different routes here too, by the way. So Europeans, especially the Northern Europeans, seem to have taken a slightly different tack here, and South America's experimented with both extremes, of all types, and so obviously countries do take different paths. So I think what's pointing out here is if you have a boom that largely leaves out the bottom and the middle, then you have a bust, which is unfortunately highly inclusive, and then you have a recovery that potentially underperforms for the bottom and the middle, and then you do policies to stem inflation that underperforms for the bottom and the middle, you're going to lose these people. You can lose them as taxpayers, you can lose them as part of a sort of functioning, legitimate part of society, you can lose them to despair, to alcohol, to drug addiction, to crime, to extreme movements. There's a lot of ways that people can sort of fall out of the social role that we tend to want for them.
That's absolutely, and we're seeing it.
See that.
We're seeing it.
I mean, my guess is that might be the story of the really strong job numbers. And there's quite an irony here, which is so many people may have dropped out of sort of mainstream, counted, economics that the jobless rate's really low, and we think working people are doing great. But what we're actually seeing in part is just a lot of people, the lower income folks, the folks who are less well treated by the labor market, just kind of falling into what we call the shadow economy or the gray economy. Right? This does not mean doing things that are illegal, by the way. It could include that, but it could just be a lot of things under the table. Right? The lady who sells burritos out of the window of her apartment, she's not a criminal, right? But she might not have a permit. So her business is probably not paying taxes and being recorded, and the people working for her aren't showing up in the roles, or the guy who goes around the neighborhood, pulls dents out of cars, or fixes people's cars, or the guy who will install your air conditioner or take it out of the window for you, or whatever it is, right? So this gray economy, the kids who are going to Costco and buying big things of M&Ms and selling them all over the subway, right? That's not criminal activity, but it's sort of falling out of the official count, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me go to Robert from Wisconsin. He's been so patiently waiting to speak with you. Robert, what's on your mind? Robert?
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, great, Robert. You're on with Dr. Wolf.
Yeah, Dr. Wolf, I have a question. My understanding from economics is the Federal Reserve has two mandates. One is to control interest rates. The other one is to control or have full employment. It seems to me we've been spending a lot of time focused on interest rates, but not full employment. So what I want to understand is all the people that are impacted, whether it be job loss or higher interest rates and credit cards, mortgages, car loans, can a class action lawsuit not be brought to sue the Federal Reserve to get them to stop? If people are clearly financially injured, they should have standing in court, correct? Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit tricky. So the two mandates are actually price stability and full employment, right? And so they use money supply, interest rates to affect those, but not directly. So the harm is not direct. And one of the interesting things about the Federal Reserve is it kind of works behind the scenes. So the Federal Reserve does not lend to corporations or individuals or municipalities directly. What they do is they change the amount of money and the cost of money to the banks, who then turn around and offer loans at different rates. So it's that indirect mechanism in part. They do directly purchase the home mortgages and other things in the U.S., but when they purchase those, they artificially lower the interest rate, right? So generally, the interest rate's paid by anyone because of the way the Federal Reserve works. It works through private banks. So it's not direct. And private banks are free to not pass along a rate increase or to pass along more than a rate increase. Likewise, they're free to pass along or not pass along a rate cut or kind of cut more than the Federal Reserve. So it's sometimes not that direct. Also, if they're following their constitutional mandate, there's no basis for a suit, I don't think. And if they're not, then Congress can come, and Congress does have the right to remove a person on the board for failing a mandate. I don't think it's ever been done, and I think it would be exceedingly unsettling to the macro economy. Maybe a version of your point, though, Robert, is that if we leave things to monetary policy because we have a dysfunctional or highly austerity-focused fiscal policy from Congress, then we're going to get a naturally less pro-poor growth. So if you want to help lower-income people, you tend to use fiscal policy more, the taxing and spending policies of the federal and state governments, the more kind of direct way to do that. If you can't or won't do that, we won't generally in the U.S., be sort of pro-poor there because it won't get through our Congress, the Senate, or even the House maybe, then you're left with this monetary policy. And so, in fairness to the Federal Reserve, a lot of what people are angry at the Fed at is because they've been given a job that should be being done by Congress and the White House.
Well, and also, I think Robert, to his point, I think we're looking for more transparency. Whether you agree with all of Ron Paul's politics or not, I think he was onto something about auditing the Fed. I mean, we need more transparency. People need to know, what the Fed what it is. I mean, most of us don't know what it is. It's like we assume that it's part of our government, and then you find out, well, if you dig enough, that it's not. No, it's not a government agency. I mean, what is the Fed?
It is part of the federal. It is part of the federal government. But look, I think
how are they part of the federal government? Clean that up for me.
right, so they are granted by the U.S. Constitution the sole right to print and destroy paper money in the United States, and they're the penultimate banking regulator in the U.S., and they maintain the working order of the banking system in the U.S., financial and banking systems, to, among other agencies, they're a bunch, but they're kind of the top agency, and they report to Congress twice a year, and it is a federal government agency. All the members, membership includes private for-profit banks,
Okay.
but it is a federal agency. It does exist under a constitutional mandate, and it does have a certain amount of accountability, but limited. And the idea for that is actually based on the notion that you don't want politicians to make monetary policy to get reelected, which is a good idea. That being said, all institutions are better off with more transparency and accountability, especially one as important as the Fed.
Well, I mean, Alex, bring that down just a little bit. I think it's important, but what about the pushback on auditing? I got about a minute.
So look, nobody likes the idea of more oversight. They can oversight accountability for themselves and just like for everyone else. And so this often happens. And if you have a person who is willfully ignorant of what you do, constantly vilifies you, and saying outrageous things, many of which are false about you, having that person audit you will be undesirable, right? Like, ask Americans how they'd like their ex-husband or ex-wife to perform a public audit of them. I mean, we might get a good number of no's.
But see, I'm not hostile. I'm just a member of the public, and I know it's my money. I just want to know where it is, right? I mean, I think that everybody wants to audit it is not hostile to it. You want to know what it is, where does the money come from, what it does, all of that. I think we have to get there. Right? In a time, Dr. Wolf, of tremendous mistrust and distrust of governmental institutions and of authoritarian figures and institutions, you got to have transparency.
I understand the idea. I would say, though, it's hard to imagine the U.S. Congress, as it's presently constructed, doing a goodwill audit that involves anything other than making videos for ads to raise money, or standing on the soapbox screaming often inaccurate things, right? And so I think maybe what we are seeing, which is more interesting, is the people who actually run the country don't trust what they care about to this Congress. They only trust this Congress what we care about. That might be the more disturbing message that we're getting.
Blessings, everybody. We need to know as much as we can. If the American project, if this experience is going to work, we need to have transparency. You need to be involved. Remember, you need to vote. Voting is the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. After you vote, you must then advocate. You must then push your representatives to represent you. Whether you voted for them or not, they need to deliver for you. They need to make life not just better for you, they need to make it right for you. But you're the one who has the power to make that happen. Sending you much love today, everybody. Thank you, Alex, for a great show. Sending you much love, Dr. Wolf. Sending my morning stars much love. See you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. God bless. Dr. Wolf, thank you so much for being with me.
Well, no problem. I'm not trying to dispute things, but I would say one thing, right, which is whenever people think of the Federal Reserve, it is mostly comprised of people who are not corrupt, who are highly trained, and who work very hard to do something, which does have political biases in it. It does have wealth bias in it, for sure. And I think even they, of course, off the record, would tell you that. But I think if I were asked to choose between giving something to the Federal Reserve and the United States Congress, it would take me 1 nanosecond to go to the Federal Reserve. Much more competent, much more, aligned. And I think the problem is also that they are accountable. They're very accountable. But they're very accountable to the elites, the asset managers, and the banks who hover over every letter they write down, every word they speak, every appearance they make, and not to the general public who don't, and who are not represented in the room. And I think that's a huge problem.
Yeah.
But I think the way we articulate our government, that's failing. I mean, again, not to keep derision on the institution with lots of great people in it, but that failing is principally congressional. It is not principally in the Federal Reserve, right?
Well, you know what, and I hear you, but that has to be rectified because the fact is, the Federal Reserve would have better press if they were more transparent. It's just like no one, I do not doubt that you have some people on the Supreme Court who have tremendous integrity, but
Sure.
the game is fixed. I mean, you have some great clerks, some people who go on there, idealistic, all of that, all of that, all of that, and I think it's important.
Sure.
But the fact is, there is rot there. There is rot everywhere, and now you have people who are hurting, who are angry, who literally are not eating. And when you have, I mean, we have a toxic brew that is percolating all around us. Dr. King said that riots are the language of the unheard. This is what we've got. You have so much mistrust and distrust out here. We have got to get things not better. We've got to get things right. And so, I mean, to explain, I mean, and the corporate media could do this if they could do this if they wanted to. They could explain what the Fed is and who are on it. They could do that, but they
I'm
don't.
not trying to be super defensive of the Federal Reserve, but their website is actually pretty decent. And they have, starting in the late 70s, there's heavy pressure on them, have made much more efforts to do public educational outreach. I'll be the first to acknowledge that negotiating the website and understanding of those articles and disclosures probably requires much more than the average citizen would probably be willing to devote for time and maybe for background education, which is a problem. But I mean, again, this is not to be condescending. They used to put out comic book series that explain what they do.
But how can that be condescending? That's not condescending.
Well, sometimes if you hand an adult a comic book understanding of things, they could feel maligned or underfactored for their acumen. But it was actually really good. It was designed for high school kids, most like for little kids. But yeah, they have had some efforts. I would agree that their public relations there, to some reality, is probably not that good.
Oh, it's the worst.
And there's also but there's also been a huge concerted effort to vilify them. And to some extent, we have this all across the society, right? If you have an organization that is sort of secretive by nature, that doesn't do public disclosure much more that well, and there's a big public effort to tar them, it's very hard for them often, just institutionally, to figure out or execute a response that works. Now, that could be because they're guilty in some cases of whatever they're being accused, but it's also just could be a cultural thing, right? The culture of that place is if you talk, you're fired.
Yeah.
Everything has to be secretive because if any of their deliberations or decisions leak in advance, it could be hundreds of billions of dollars of losses and gains, and they're very secretive in part appropriately, right? And in part maybe just a tradition that's worth re-exploring. But yeah, I do think the institution has been much maligned by people who love the spotlight and the camera, and it is secretive for some good reasons as well as some not so good reasons. So I think I agree, and I don't think audits are bad. I think all publicly funded institutions should be audited, right?
Yeah.
I think what people might not know is that the Federal Reserve, it does not drain resources from the country. It actually adds resources, tens of billions of dollars to the general operating budget. So people don't go there to get rich. The salaries are not exorbitantly high, and it is a net benefit every year to the U.S. economy and props up the U.S. economy often, especially the last 20 years. And as that things massively subsidize the cost of borrowing to get a mortgage for a home or an auto loan or a credit card.
But
those are the principal ways in which it interacts with the general public.
But what I'm saying to you is people don't know that. And people do, and people know the underbelly of it. They see it. And unless it is discussed, and when you have this veil of, not even a veil of secrecy, when you have this wall up, when you have a wall up, it's a problem. That's why the Supreme Court's in trouble. They are in trouble. All of these institutions are in trouble because they do not disclose, and that is not a good
I think
thing.
it's a legitimacy crisis.
Yeah,
look, people feel like legitimacy crisis. People feel that the institutions and organs of state power are either useless or actively opposed to them, right? There's a lot of anger out there, and anger is a scalpel, it can be more of a sledgehammer, and it can tend to be easily sort of directed into all kinds of places where it maybe doesn't 100% belong. But no, I understand this. I think I understand the status also need to order for conspiracy theories, like a quasi-governmental agency created 100 years ago, shrouded in secrecy, that's in the banks and in the money, and is run out of a fortress in Northern Aden. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better conspiracy theory setup than that, right?
well, I think it's beyond conspiracy theory. I'm always kind of, I've used that term cautiously, maybe given my movement background and given the fact that that came from the CIA to cut dissent. I mean, the fact is, people have some lived experiences in which institutions have never favored them. Institutions never favored Black people in America. We are the original currency in the United States, aside from indigenous people and their land. We were literally currency. And we still don't want to have that conversation 400 plus years later. And so when you've got that, and when you know that even poor white people were disfavored in this society, and we don't want to talk about it, that's a problem. Now white folks are being treated like Black folks, and now they're mad as hell. So if we don't have these discussions, we are going to have a real problem here. We already have it. They're shutting. Haven't you noticed all these power shutdowns they're having all over the country? It's crazy.
Look, if you keep doing things you can't keep doing, eventually catches up with you, right?
Yeah.
But I do think. But the problem is you don't want it to be all encompassing, right? You want to tease out the different institutions, play different roles, have different histories, right? Otherwise, you kind of get this exceptionally broad brush approach, which is, I get it, it's driven by sort of anger, but it doesn't tend to be all that, finely accurate or produce the best policy prescriptives. Well, I understand that the situation. Look, the Federal Reserve, no one could say the Federal Reserve has done or does a bad enough job at sort of discussing its social role. You get sort of cloistered technocrats who are derided and look down on the people deriding them, and that's just not a very good way for a democratic institution to function.
And it can't. I have another call. Oh, I'm sending you much love.
Likewise, be well. Talk soon.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Oh no, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Everybody, I hope you all got something good out of the conversation today. I will talk with you a little bit later. I'm running today, running, trying to get some things done so I can get home. Oh my gosh. See, New York is not a tourist spot for me. I lived here, so I look at it a little bit differently, everybody. Yeah, I love it. But I want to come home. I love you. Have a good one. Hey, Effie, Rolf, how you doing, Robert? Jewel, sending you all much love. How you doing? Hey, Star Child. Hey, Laura. D-Ray. Ooh, okay, everybody. Love y'all.